From the headquarters of Telesur English in Quito, Ecuador, this is From the South. I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. We begin in Venezuela, where President Nicolas Maduro is addressing the nation. Maduro congratulated his ministers on the progress made in the last month's Venezuela's economic recovery program. He also praised both the security services and the Venezuelan public for their role in dismantling the conspiracy behind last month's failed assassination attempt. 3 of those involved were arrested the weekend.
The news came in a press conference given by the Minister of Communication, Jorge Rodriguez. He confirmed that Henribert Emmanuel Rivas Vivas, alias Morfeo, had been arrested. He said that in his testimony, Morfeo had implicated the opposition leader, Julio Borges. He'd also said that the embassies of Colombia, Mexico, and Chile had been involved in his failed attempt to escape.
Henribert Emmanuel Rivas Vivas, alias Morfeo, was captured by Venezuela security services. He was directly involved in carrying out the attempted assassination of President Nicolas Maduro, which also targeted the armed forces high command, the political leaders and ambassadors who were present at the parade on August 4th to celebrate the anniversary of the National Guard.
Rodriguez also reported the arrests of Ángela Lisbeth Esposito Carrillo, alias La Perrera, who transported and hid alias Morfeo, and also of retired Colonel Ramón Santiago Velasco Garcia, alias Coro Coro, who was going to take Rivas to Colombia.
The drones were set to be launched from the vehicles. Apparently, the signal inhibitors interfered with the signal of the remote controls, and that caused them to explode before they reached their target. They evacuated the place, and I was in Carabobo Park when we lost touch with everybody. The park was occupied by the guard, so we left. I saw that the authorities were acting fast, so I decided to stay in Caracas. All my partners went to the meeting point in Barquisimeto to plan the escape to San Cristobal, and then to Colombia. I got a number from a person in Spain. On August 5, I tried to reach the number, and she told me I had to go to the Chilean embassy. From there, they were going to take me to the Mexican embassy, and then to the Colombian embassy. And from there, they would take me across the border.
The confessions of those arrested and the investigation of their cell phones revealed their links to Air Force Captain Layret Salazar, who took part in the coup of 2014, known as the Blue Coup, and who had escaped of her house arrest thanks to the cooperation of alias Coro Coro. The opposition leaders Julio Borges and Juan Requesens have also emerged as being behind the attack. They liaised with immigration authorities in Colombia and provided logistical and financial support to Maria Antonieta da Silva, alias Genesis, who is in Spain, and Maria Isabel Rodriguez Briceño, alias Maye, who is on the run in the United States.
We have a lot of evidence that involves Julio Borges in the attempted assassination. It is perfectly clear. You should ask the journalist Patricia Poleo for the evidence that links Borges to the Blue Coup in 2014.
So far, a total of 28 people have been arrested in connection with the attempted assassination of the President of the Republic and almost all of his leadership team. Requests have already been made for recapture and extradition from Spain, Colombia, and the United States of those who organized and financed Operation Phoenix, as the attack on August 4th was called.
The Cuban President Miguel Díaz-Canel has told the opening session of the UN General Assembly that the only way to guarantee worldwide stability is to address the root causes of the problem. He was speaking at the Special Peace Summit dedicated to the memory of Nelson Mandela.
To achieve a world in which peace prevails and to achieve a peaceful solution to conflicts, we must address the underlying causes that create them. The millions who are excluded by an unjust economic order, those who are hungry, those who have to flee wars and the lack of opportunity, to seek lands of abundance, itself built on the pillage of our people. They are the victims of a silent segregation.
The Special Peace Summit was called on the first day of the General Assembly to mark Mandela's centenary. He's been honored as one of the world's greatest leaders. Members have highlighted his fight for human rights and social justice. As part of the celebration, a life-size statue of Mandela was unveiled in the United Nations headquarters. The South African President Cyril Ramaphosa attended the unveiling. The statue has been erected in honor of what will be Mandela's 100th birthday.
20 years ago, almost to the day, President Nelson Mandela addressed the UN General Assembly for the last time. He said, "We must ask a question which might sound naive to those who have elaborated sophisticated arguments to justify their refusal to eliminate these terrible and terrifying weapons of mass destruction. Why do they need them anyway?" Close quotes, he asked. To this day, his question has been met with no satisfactory answer. The truth is that there can be no justification for the existence of weapons that carry with them the potential to extinguish life on this planet.
Trinidad and Tobago's Foreign Affairs and CARICOM Minister Dennis Moses paid tribute to the anti-apartheid leader at the Peace Summit.
Nelson Mandela is one of the most eminent leaders of our generation. We salute him as a freedom fighter and an icon of reconciliation. Mr. Mandela's life and the legacy is testament to the purposes and the principles enshrined in the Charter of the United Nations. That is, to maintain international peace and security, to promote and protect human rights.
Maria Fernanda Espinosa is the first Latin American woman to chair the UN General Assembly. This Ecuadorian politician assumed the presidency of the General Assembly in early September. Espinosa says she wants to promote the United Nations values for peoples across the world.
It is a privilege, an honor, but also a great challenge. We women always have to prove that we are able to do it. Here are big expectations regarding our capacity of promoting another kind of leadership, of changing the world and solving problems.
The Venezuelan foreign minister has warned that a number of countries will try to raise the issue of Venezuela at the United Nations to distract from their own problems. Jorge Arreaza was speaking outside the UN headquarters in New York.
Get ready to see how the United States, Colombia, and countries of the Lima cartel are going to use the topic of Venezuela here for everything. To hide the corruption scandals, the increase in narcotics production, their failures in the peace process, and their falling popularity at home. They'll use migration in Venezuela to try hide it all.
The Spanish government will file a complaint against OAS Secretary General Luis Almagro. This to protest the strong language Almagro used against former Prime Minister José Luis Rodríguez Zapatero. The OAS secretary said Rodríguez Zapatero was a moron regarding Venezuela. Zapatero has played a prominent role as a mediator in the attempts to reach an agreement with the Venezuelan opposition. We'll take a short break now. Welcome back. New protests against the government are taking place in Argentina. People are marching in capital Buenos Aires to reject the agreement President Mauricio Macri signed with the International Monetary Fund. They're angry about austerity policies, as they say this only brings more suffering to the people. Meanwhile, a 36-hour transport strike started on Monday. Trains, buses, subways, and flights will cease to operate during the strike. Airlines announced that nearly 80,000 passengers will have to cancel or reschedule their flights. Banks and schools are not working either. Our correspondent in Buenos Aires, Edgardo Esteban, has more details.
Labor unions and social organizations have gathered in Plaza de Mayo to begin a 36-hour strike against the economic measures of President Mauricio Macri. The measures include tariffs increase, unemployment, and to defend the public educational system. They are also protesting against the negotiations that President Macri is holding in the US with the International Monetary Fund. This massive demonstration shows a union between different sectors to defend workers' rights and demand new measures to face the economic and social crisis, which is affecting many people across the country as a result of the policies taken by the government.
A community in Honduras is resisting eviction by a gold mining company. Its concession includes the right to remove their loved ones from the local cemetery. Gilda Silvestrucci has the story.
Flores Mira Lopez went to visit her mother in the cemetery. She found employees of the mining company taking her mother's coffin to another graveyard.
They took my father out of his grave. They already had him out when I arrived.
In Asacualpa village, the mining company has a concession of 300 hectares. It's already resulted in transfer of several communities. But residents didn't know it included the cemetery.
They drew up this document, and out of the blue, it included the graveyard. Our community never agreed to them exploiting the cemetery.
The mining company, Minerales de Occidente, uses open-cast mining and extracts more than 1 billion ounces of gold a year. But the resistance from people who do not want to be moved is growing stronger.
I do not want to negotiate, not even with money. They came to find me to negotiate, but I said no, absolutely not. This is in the hands of our lawyers.
3 human rights organizations filed an appeal and blocked the removal of bodies to another cemetery, something that was already happening without the family's consent. Members of the organizations defending the community have received threats. They are the targets of a local campaign describing them as opponents of development.
Recently, the Interior Minister said that he would close 2 organizations because they were against development. I want to invite him to come here, where I am, to see the ecological disaster that the mining companies have caused here.
Even though the removal of houses is imminent, local residents keep protesting. They say they will not give up.
We are here because we do not accept the situation. We do not want money, houses. We do not want anything in exchange for our dead relatives.
The mineral company Minerales de Occidente has more than 300 similar concessions in Honduras. It is estimated that the company generates less than 3,000 jobs in the whole country.
Journalists have rallied in the Mexican state of Chiapas after the murder of their colleague Mario Gomez. They're urging authorities for justice and for their lives to be protected. Gomez was killed from 3 gunshots as he was leaving his house. He had previously reported threats he received. Gomez is the 9th journalist killed so far in 2018.
Mario had already been threatened previously, almost 2 years ago. He came to Tuxtla, handed in a criminal report. He had his photo taken with the prosecutor Raciel Lopez Salazar. Only 1 or 2 months later, they offered him security. Then they didn't listen to him.
A community in Mexico City uses La Faena, a nation social organization system that helps them reinforce their identity and face their problems.
Maria Jimenez has many reasons to be proud of her new house. She lives in San Gregorio, a village in the south of Mexico, DC. It was with all her efforts and the help of the community that allowed that to happen.
It was a dream with real results. We're seeing those results here. We're really thankful.
In the Xochimilco region, where ruins of damaged buildings 1 year after the 2017 earthquake remain, solidarity between people replaced broken promises from the local government.
We have been waiting for government's help and it never arrived. So when they said we're going to build this, the first thought was incredulity.
The cultural centre has received funds from the community and a group of neighbours known as Chicuarotes, named after a local source. The centre celebrates its rich history.
People from Ejidal organize themselves. It is a village that has survived because they have organized themselves.
For these people, social work brings people closer together. By doing so, they go back to an ancient Mexican practice called La Faena.
All people are part of a working day. They all participate in agriculture tasks, construction. Everyone participates in anything that the community has decided to elaborate.
La Faena is a tradition that many ancient Mexican villages still practice. People from San Gregorio say that it's thanks to this ancient method of organization that they can still face their everyday problems.
The funeral for Bohom John took place in his native St. Lucia on Monday. John's body was flown home over the weekend for the funeral. He was laid to rest at Chalk Cemetery. Bohom was killed early this month in his Dallas home by a police officer. Calls for justice resonated at the funeral service.
The fact is that Botham lies here dead in this box. This is not fake news. There lies his body. The officer, the off-duty police officer, is alive and well. I will not plead any apology if my heart is in my face today. If St. Lucia's heart is in its face. St. Lucia is angry. People in the four corners of the earth are angry.
For those who choose to do evil, there is a day of reckoning. God will repay all the evil that is done to his children, because he said in his word, vengeance is mine.
The police officer who shot Bohom Jan, in a statement, it said that Geiger was dismissed after an internal investigation found the officer engaged in adverse conduct when she was charged with manslaughter. The firing comes after widespread calls for action against Geiger, who had been on administrative leave since the shooting. Meanwhile, the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States is standing firmly in solidarity with the family of Bohom Jan. In a statement, OECS Chairman St. Vincent and the Grenadines Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves calls upon the U.S. to ensure justice. Gonsalves also tells the U.S. that our small-size ranking in global affairs should not lead to false assumptions about the strength of our resolve and determination in the fight for justice. National Hurricane Center advisories are being discontinued for what was Tropical Depression Kirk. This is because the system lacks a closed circulation that is a prerequisite for tropical cyclone status. The remnants of Kirk are located east of Windward Islands. The system will be monitored over the next few days in case regeneration into a tropical cyclone should occur. Consumers in Ecuador are spending less and is having a negative effect on the government's tax income. The Internal Revenue Service is reporting a 0.3% decline in value-added tax collection.
Ecuador's economy is still in recovery, and in the provinces, it's indigenous artisanal traders who are hardest hit. They are experiencing slow sales and significant financial loss.
Our sales have been reduced by almost 50%. Before, we sold a lot. I do not know if it's the competition or the tourism. People simply don't buy as much.
In the artisanal district, you can find wool, sweaters, wooden figures, also costume jewelry, all handmade by locals. Some small merchants also buy from this market for their stores. They too are concerned about the future of their businesses.
The economic crisis is affecting the country. I believe it is the main reason consumption is decreasing.
There is no work. The food costs too much. There is no work for the elderly. It is something that affects us all.
The Internal Revenue Service is reporting that from January to August 2018, value-added tax collection has been reduced by 0.3% compared to the same period in 2017.
Ecuador is going through a time of low economic growth. The economy is expected to grow this 2018 at 1%, and this is an optimistic projection. There is fiscal adjustment, but companies are not investing. There is more emphasis on imports rather than exports. We hope that 2019 will see improvements, because unemployment is a real concern, and people are not buying goods as before.
The Ecuadorian government announced a package of austerity measures in a bid to boost the economy and avoid recession. To date, these measures have been rejected by almost all labor unions and workers by extension. Unions have vowed to continue marching against these economic measures. Denise Herrera, Telesur, Ecuador.
We'll take a short break now. Welcome back. China has released a white paper on trade relations with the United States. The paper lays down China's stance on bilateral relations and called the U.S. a trade bully. It says that the two sides must find a way back to normal trade relations for the benefit of both peoples. This comes hours after the U.S. tariffs on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods went into effect. Maldives opposition leader Ibrahim Mohamed Solih has won the presidential election. Solih secures 58% of the vote against the incumbent President Abdullah Yamen's 42%. The results came as a surprise to many, as the outgoing president had launched a crackdown on dissent in the last few months. He either jailed or forced into exile almost of his main rivals. He put strict restrictions on campaign coverage by the opposition media.
And ask him to.
The economic freedom fighters have called for the removal of apartheid colonial status and symbols in South Africa. The news came on the day South Africa celebrates Heritage Day. A statement from EEF said such symbols perpetuate the conflict of races and white supremacy. It also added land is the most important heritage upon which all culture is based. Heritage Day in South Africa is meant to be a day to celebrate the diversity in culture, language, and traditions of the country. Each year, locals display their various cultures in their traditional clothing, songs, and dance. People across the country step out in style to show pride in their heritage. Originally, the day was known as Shaka Day in commemoration of King Shaka Zulu and has been celebrated since 1995.
Made a huge contribution towards development of education in South Africa. Although as missionary he came with a specific focus to spread the gospel amongst the indigenous people, the Khoi, and the best way to start was actually teaching the people to read and to write. And Schmidt established his first school in the interior, 1737.
Genadendal is a very old town, and behind Genadendal there's a huge story to be told. And now that it's turned like this huge age, I'm actually happy that I can be part of it.
Moshfika Botha of Mojo Media has more from Johannesburg.
As South Africa celebrates National Heritage Day, so too does Genadendal celebrate 280 years of the establishment of its Christian missionary. As South Africa works towards reconciliation, social justice, and social cohesion, Genadendal, like many a South African town with its rich heritage and history, has a huge role to play.
A bus has been washed away due to heavy rainfall that triggered landslides and flash flooding in India. As the monsoon season is ending, floodwaters swept away an empty bus while parking in the town of Manali. Rescue operations had to save around 20 people in the same region, but no casualties were reported. About 70% of India's annual rainfall comes from the monsoon. Hindus have paid tribute to god Ganesh in Mumbai. Devotees danced to the music of drums and threw red powder around the figure. They also immersed the elephant-headed god into the Arabian Sea to mark the last day of the Ganesh festival. Ganesh is known as the god of arts and science and the lord of abundance. We come to the end of this news brief. These and many other stories, you can find them on our website at telesurtv.net/English. And join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. From Telesur English, I'm Jose Daniel Lopez. Thank you for watching.